So, as Tony was saying, I'm going to show how to conduct various methods of data mining using Excel, and not just looking for data, but also doing some reporting on it, mainly through pivot tables as well as pivot charts in Microsoft Excel. The nice thing about Business Central is there is tight integration between, well, of course, Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central and the other Microsoft flagship products, such as Excel, that we've all been using for literally decades now, at least some of us anyway. The other nice thing about Business Central is it's very easy to search for a window or a report if you're lost in navigation. For example, the first thing that I want to show is vendor ledger entries, which is the AP subledger of Business Central. Don't have a specific link here on the Role Center or homepage, so hey, that's okay. Let's click the Tell Me or Search button in the upper right corner and type in a handful of characters, vendor ledger entries, or VinLed int, as the case may be. But no, here is the selection, vendor ledger entries. And what I'm going to do, everyone, after vendor ledger entries appears, is I'm going to click the Microsoft Share button over here on the right. And specifically, I'm going to choose or get ready to choose Edit in Excel. I'll explain why in a second. The other selection that you see at the top, Open in Excel, will also transport the data to Excel, but let's go ahead and click on Edit in Excel and go from there. And of course, it is going to produce a file in my Downloads folder. Let's go ahead and click, of course, Open File and go from there. Now, as it gets ready to open, and let me maximize here the workbook. As it gets ready to open, we will see here on the right that it is attempting to talk to, so to speak, what is called the Microsoft Dynamics Data Connector. This is the bridge between Business Central and Excel in terms of refreshable reporting. What that means is that thanks to this data connector, if there are any changes in data in Business Central, I could always later down the road reopen this workbook and the changes will automatically take shape. So this is again an example of refreshable reporting. And in a couple of weeks, literally 2 Wednesdays from now, I'm going to kind of expand on that a little more in terms of Excel refreshable reporting in a Business Central environment. But in any case, what we've got here is the AP subledger, vendor ledger entries. And so what I'm going to do, everyone, is I'm going to click the Insert button in order to begin the reporting process. And I'm going to click Pivot Table, as you see here in the upper left. And it has selected all of the data here in this tab of the workbook. So I'm going to click OK. And then thanks to the Excel pivot tabling technology, it's great. It's been around literally since the 90s, showing my age a little bit, but that's okay. I wanted to say that over here we've got the very quick drag and drop capability to show the columns, rows, and values that are going to appear in this matrix style reporting. Also, as important, if not a little more important, is the filtering here, the filter quadrant here in the lower right corner. Let me go ahead and drag and drop what I need into these quadrants, and then I'll explain a little more the use, especially from a business case. I'm going to start by, and again, I'll explain in a little bit, I'm going to start by taking the document type and dragging that in for filter. I'm next going to go ahead and scroll down to one of the amount columns here and put that into values. In values, you're going to want to, I would say at least 8 times out of 10, if not 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to pull down an amount, some sort of currency figure into values, especially again from a business standpoint. And next, what I will do is go ahead and determine what we want to put in rows and columns. For rows, I'm going to pull down posting date. And what I will do next for columns is I will pull in the vendor number. So I'm going to come back to this in a second, but already we see our matrix reporting. We see a timetable over here on the far left, and up here at the top for column headings, we see the vendor, again, the vendor IDs or the vendor numbers. Now, I'm going to, in the rows section, I'm going to strip out certain time elements that were automatically created for me. I'm going to pull out years, months, and posting dates so we can have quarters remain here for the time labels. Now, I mentioned what I wanted to do or explain in terms of why I chose at least some of these fields down here, especially document type. Document type, again, is the filter, as we see here. And what I mean by that is I want to be able to kind of slice and dice the data in this report based on document type. As far as AP is concerned, there's invoices, credit memos, payments, the various document types you can have in accounts payable or for that particular subledger. So here's what I'm going to do. Even though I could simply, hit the drop-down list for document type and choose one or more values, thanks to the checkbox select multiple items, I'm going to do this a little differently. What I like to do is I like to use slicers. So I'm going to click the button Insert Slicer and then choose the filter for document type. And what that does for me is it allows me to have kind of a, pick and choose or pick, and choose, excuse me, I'm sorry, selection capability. It's just a little more, I don't know, I guess I'll just say palatable than the drop-down list. Also, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a pivot chart, or more specifically, have Excel create the pivot chart for us. Now, if I click the button for pivot chart here, we see that we have a wide variety of selections to choose from, line chart, pie chart, bar, area, what have you. I'm going to leave it at the default of column here and say OK. Now, this, at least at first glance, looks all well and good. We've got our bars. We've got a legend over here on the right for vendor number. We've got our numeric values here, dollar values here on the far left. And we've even got the ability, if we wanted to, if we didn't want to use the slicer, I could hit the document type here and do that, the same type of filtering. But what I think I'm going to do is I want to take this one step further. We'll notice that because if I could click invoice here to show you this, you'll notice that the large majority of the dollar values are represented by invoice, a credit to accounts payable. And more specifically, that credit is represented by minus signs here. If you want to display this to, again, to use my term, to make this look a little more palatable, instead of just showing minus signs, if you want to show strictly values here, what you can do is in the lower right, speaking of values, hit the drop down list and choose value field settings. By doing so, I'm going to click number format, just like anything else in Excel. Just click the number format to choose how you want things to look. And I'm going to choose currency. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm specifically going to choose, as I said, values that do not show as negative. Well, they show as negative by the red here, of course, but I just don't want to see a minus or parentheses. So let's say OK to this and OK to this. So now what we have here is we have the same configuration as far as the bars are concerned, but we see, again, I don't want to say positive values, but we'll say positive looking values over here to make this look, display a little more, I guess, better or professionally, all well and good. And you will notice, too, I can, of course, as I called it earlier, slice and dice. I don't know if we have too much in the way of credit memos, but let's take a look. For quarter one, there was quite a bit here. All right, that's fine. Now, let's take a look at payment here. Now, payments, of course, you're going to see this as I guess we'll just say, as most people would normally see a bar chart, we see everything going up instead of down. But again, that's just the nature of accounting. Accounts payable is a credit account, so click on invoice, and we'll see, of course, especially if we have unpaid invoices, we'll see that here, and we'll see that as noted by the red on the far left. So now vendor ledger entries, again, the AP sub ledger, this is but one example of doing some data mining and some reporting on that data through Excel, thanks to Business Central. Let's do this though, everyone. I'm going to close out of this. I guess I'll save it when prompted. No harm in doing that. But I want to go on to another example if I could, and that is the idea of actually going into a report, not a list window like we just did, but a report in Business Central, and show you about some subtleties in terms of exporting that data to Excel and reporting on that data in Excel. Specifically, everyone, I'm going to click on the customer's bookmark here on the upper left, or shortcut, the customer's shortcut, we'll just call it, and bring up the list window. And after the list window appears, I'm going to click the reports menu here in the upper right, and I'm going to go to the sales selection of reports and specifically choose customer order detail. Now, I am going to kind of just preface this example and the final one or two examples, if time allows, of reports by saying that what I'm getting ready to show truthfully for these last few examples is not refreshable Excel reporting. However, it is still very useful in the sense that if you wanted to report on data, do some data mining, export to Excel and report on that data, and specifically historical data, report on data from a historical standpoint, that's where these next few examples come in. So I just wanted to say that this we saw the Excel refreshable reporting through the connector, the data connector, and there are some other ways, other examples, like I said, 2 weeks from now I'll show you. But anyway, this is still very useful, especially from historical reporting. And speaking of that, you'll notice that here in the shipment date range, I have done just that. I've said, well, we're in the year 2023, of course, but let's just go back X number of years to see all of this from the historical standpoint. So I just wanted to preface that. Now, the next thing I want to say that's very important too is that in windows like this throughout Business Central, we have the Send To button. And now, of course, as you know, or might have guessed, I should say, I'm going to export this data to Excel, but specifically, I'm going to choose the selection that says Data Only. And to kind of make, I guess, a long story short, I'm going to choose Data Only instead of Data and Layout because there's nothing wrong with choosing data and layout, but when you're going to be cutting, slicing, and dicing data, you really don't want to choose layout because then you've got to go through the kind of the practice of removing headers, column headers like, I don't know, we'll just say vendor number, amount, etc. Remove all that. It could take X number of minutes or whatever to do that and get it in the format you want for reporting further and data mining. So I'm choosing not data and layout, but data only. So I'm going to say, of course, okay to this and go from there. And the spreadsheet, the workbook, is going to appear once again in my downloads folder. Let's click open file. And there's not going to be, as I keep saying, there's not going to be a data connection showing on the right as there was in the previous example, but that's okay because this is, again, historical reporting and we can still do a lot with this. Speaking of reporting, let's once again go to Excel, or I'm sorry, insert. Wow, insert in the upper left corner and choose pivot table. Do that, and it's chosen everything automatically, which is definitely a big help. So let's go ahead and say okay. And once again, we've got our list of fields over here on the right. I will try to explain these selections I'll make here in a few moments or so. But let's start with maybe the fairly obvious. Let's just say values. We know, again, that's going to be typically currency, maybe if not currency, at least numeric value. So specifically, I want to choose a dollar amount based field, a currency amount field. Let's choose sales order amount for values here. And then next, let's just think about this objectively. What else would make sense? Filters. Okay, I don't know. Let's say I wanted to filter based on customer. Okay, well, there's customer names. Let's pull that down here in the list and move forward from there. So we've got our, oh, and I'm sorry, one thing I should mention, guys, is that it's hard to tell when specific examples of when this happens, but maybe at least 50% or so of the time when you pull something into values, uh, again, 50% of the time or so, it's going to say count instead of sum, meaning look at this sales order amount, it's saying 44. Well, I know I sold more than $44 worth of stuff. Come on. But that's count. That's because of this count. So let's hit the drop down list and choose value field settings. In these last few examples, I'm not going to worry so much about, number format like I did in the last one, etc. So guys, just the long and the short of it is choose sum in a situation where, of course, you don't want count. And then there, now we've got a numeric or dollar amount of $272,000. Okay, very good indeed. So now what I want to do maybe for columns, the top is maybe say description, maybe the description of the line item. Oh, and let me show you this, guys. You can search instead of going around saying, okay, where the heck is that field I'm looking for? Just type a few characters here, DESC, yeah, and there's description sales line. And by the way, I know this may look a little strange, description underscore sales line, name underscore customer instead of customer name, description. Sometimes when you're exporting data directly from a Business Central report, there is going to be those little subtleties, but you can always rename these sort of fields as you're, composing these sort of reports. So no worries there. And now let me hit the X to the right of this shortcut search I was doing here. And for rows, maybe I will do perhaps, yeah, I'll just do like sales order date. It's fine, or should be fine. Let's more specifically search for that too. I'm sorry. So yeah, sales header order date. Maybe I'll do that. And I'll click the X here, and let's go ahead and do our slicer. So I'm going to click Insert Slicer so that I can filter on the customer name. And yeah, this should work fine. So probably be finer if I could. There we go. Find it. I'm sorry, customer name. So that'll be our slicer. So we've got just that, the customer names. Now, real quick, you'll notice that my selections over here for pivot table fields disappeared. Just as a kind of a shortcut, all you got to do is just click inside of your report and you get them back. Just a little subtlety there I wanted to let you know about. So now let me go ahead and click on that again, because the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure you click in here not just to show fields on the right, but also to get the pivot charts going. So let's click Insert, and then the pivot chart button is still here. If I were to click outside or even on the filter and start filtering, pivot chart might not show up. So in other words, you want to click in here to have the fields available, to have pivot charting available, etc. So let's do this pivot chart. We'll click that. And I think once again, I don't know, do I want to leave it as bar? I guess that might be okay. I think, or a column, I think that's fine. I'll just leave it like that. You know what? No, let's maybe do bar. Who knows? May change my mind. So let's do bar. Say okay. All well and good. So we got our bar chart here. Now let's do some selecting. Oh, I don't know. How about Coho Winery? Yeah, that. Let me stretch it out. Should be okay. Yeah. So now with choosing one customer, Coho Winery. Look at what we got here. We've got a nice bar chart selection. I can continue to pick and choose. That's fine. But we see here we've got on the right the legend, the description showing, whatever the inventory or non-inventory item may have been. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you, yeah, we see in the legend null. Well, that's not important. Let's do this, guys. Let's go over here into the right and row I'm sorry, the left. I am so sorry. And hit the drop-down list for row labels, and let's uncheck null. Yeah, we don't want that guy in our reporting. Doesn't make any sense. So we got, as I was getting ready to say, inventory items, non-inventory items like test service or whatever showing up a little bit there, I guess, heading into May. And so we've got our dollar values here. We've got most everything we need to have our report work well for whether it be internal managerial accounting or other presentation purposes. And you can always, copy and paste, by the way, guys, these charts into, any charts, anything you got here into PowerPoint presentations if you want. Now, I do want to, just to make, for the sake of time, looking over here at my other monitor, and for the sake of time, I do want to move into at least one or two further examples. So I'm going to go ahead and close out, and I'll save this. That's all well and good, and go from there and go to the next example. Let me just remove this from list over here on the right and close out of my downloads folder selection. I'm going to click the Contoso sample company name here in the upper left to get ourselves back to the home page. Now, before I head into, again, the next one or two examples, I wanted to say, so far we've looked at exporting to Excel and doing what we need from a list window, such as vendor ledger entries, to have the refreshable reporting. We conducted activity from from a regular report window, I'll just call it, in Business Central. The other way of data mining, it's sometimes it's kind of a best kept secret, if you want to call it that, or just some sort of secret, and that is to use the configuration packages window. Now, the configuration packages window in Business Central typically is used for importing data, whether that, as we all know, at the beginning of an implementation for master data like accounts, customers, vendors, items, projects, what have you, or say historical data or open transactional based data for your subledgers. But the configuration package window can also be used for data mining and reporting. So let's go there. Once again, don't have a link for it, but that's okay. Let's click the search button in the upper right and just type in a handful of characters, config pack. And so there we go, configuration packages here. Let's go ahead and go there. And yeah, there's some either some default selections here, or just because this is a demo environment, some things that we've done in the past, like created a package to import some AP transactions. But let's click new here, the new button, and move forward. Now, I'm not going to make this too fancy, especially for the sake of time. And what I mean by that is, as far as the code, I don't know, I'm just going to call it export, and the package name, likewise export, really don't care. Doesn't matter for our presentation here. Now, what I'm going to show here, or what I'd like to show, is something along the lines of reporting based on fixed assets, the fixed assets ledger, subledger, more specifically. So whenever you are, I guess, for lack of a better word, stumped into what is, as you see here for table ID, what is the number for the fixed assets ledger entry window? Or in other cases, what is the number for, say, the GL entries, the general ledger entries window? Well, let's take a look. We're going to click this ellipsis button here for table ID. And here, everyone, for table ID, yeah, sure, I could sit here and scroll. I could even maybe try to sort to make it easier to look for the fixed assets ledger window, or table rather. But I'm going to click the search button in the upper left. And here's one other, to use the word subtlety, I wanted to show you. Fixed assets ledger entry. Okay, so how do we find that guy? Let's type in the word fixed asset, and then I think I'm going to find that. Well, no, unfortunately not. I did find the fixed asset master table, but that's not what we're looking for. So what I wanted to say is that sometimes, again, when you're stumped in trying to find a table, find something, you may have to think a little more conceptually and say, oh, okay, maybe it's an abbreviation I should be looking for. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to type FA instead of fixed assets, here. And sure enough, there it is, FA as in fixed assets ledger entry. And the ID happens to be 5601. That's fine. But I'm just saying that FA, sometimes you just have to do some conceptual thinking. And there are other ways, too, of finding out what the table names are in Business Central. In future webinars, I'll delve into that further. But in any case, let's click OK in the lower right. We have found our table ID. I'm going to tab out and go from there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check here, exclude configuration tables, because I'm not concerned with, anything along the lines of anything that is system-based. I just want to take a look at one table in particular, the fixed assets ledger entry. So, and by the way, whenever you're tabbing around or selecting selecting, it'll bring up this window saying some fields have 2 or more related tables. Do you want to check them? No, I don't care about other tables, just to be frank. And in any case, one thing too, really quick, and I know we got to hurry on time here, is that as a shortcut, you could always, by the way, look at the hyperlink here under number of database records, the 16, and then you'll see what you're technically looking for, FA ledger entries. That's fine. You can export it from here. That's fine. But in any case, I guess I'm a little old school, so let's just maybe do it this way. I'm going to click on the Excel menu here, and we're not going to import from Excel, even though, again, that's what this window is most known for. Let's export to Excel and go from there. Yes, one table has been selected. Sure, let's continue. So let's go back here, upper right, click Open File. We know the drill by now. And then wait for it to do so, to open. Okay, and a few things here, guys. First of all, let's get rid of the default 2 rows here that say the name of the configuration package followed by the ID 5601. Just right click and delete. And, you know, too, a lot of times when we see data scrunched, that's the technical term, scrunched up like this, I select it and then I choose Format, auto fit, and specifically auto fit column width. There, yay, we can see everything now. So so anyway, now the only other thing I want to say before we actually go into pivot table and start finishing up the presentation is that when you are exporting through the configuration package window, as far as the numeric or currency column that you're either going to report on or filter on or whatever, you're going to want to come, in this case, the amount column here, guys, you're going to want to come here and select the values that are here, and then next choose convert to number. Just kind of to make, again, a long story short, let's choose convert to number. The reason is because it says it's text, and that's not going to report well in the pivot table. So let's say convert to number. Okay, good. Now, speaking of pivot table, insert pivot table. And then let's say, okay. All right, so let's do this, kind of a no-brainer for what we want in the value section here. Let's go ahead and find our amount, and yeah, there it is. Let's pull in amount. And by the way, what I want to filter on is I want to filter on the types of assets, you know, equipment, land, buildings, vehicles, whatever you have. That in Business Central nomenclature is the subclass code for those of you who have experience in the fixed assets module. So let's pull FA subclass code into filters. Very good. And for the columns, I'm going to choose the posting type, FA posting type, which is like depreciation, retirement, acquisition, those transaction types. And then finally for rows, yeah, let's pull down the FA number so we can actually see the fixed assets. I'm going to click row labels and uncheck the blank because we don't care about that blank line there. Now, real quick for the sake of time, we're going to say, I'm sorry, let me go back here and click on over here in this. And I'm sorry, I'm actually going to go to, there it is. I'm sorry, I got off track. Pivot table, analyze, and insert slicer. I kind of jumped the gun and went to the pivot chart. So here we are, insert slicer and pivot table, analyze, and let's choose what we want to filter on, FA subclass code. See, in this case, we just have 3, equipment, furniture, software. And now back to insert pivot chart, and we'll just leave it at column, I guess line for the sake of I haven't shown a line yet, so that's fine. So here, look at this, guys. We can say furniture, not much of a line there. Looks like down here there was the one asset, as it says here, minus 200 for the value. Software, not much of a line there. So you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and put this back to you. Sometimes have to pick and choose too, guys. Let's go to pivot chart, and we'll just say bar. No, let's say column. It's fine. Yeah, that looks better. I'll go ahead and delete this one, and then I will shift click all of the selections here for the slicer, and there is our nice presentation of the chart as well as all of the other data that we've exported. Well, we've run out of time, but that's fine. Those are the examples I wanted to show. Tony, I will, for lack of a better phrase, throw it back to you.